Hello and welcome back to my channel, My Chronically Cozy Life. My name is Randy and this is my channel where I share little snippets and vlogs and tips on living with a chronic illness. And today I'm sharing my chronic illness story. Sorry, puppy. This is Nola. She's my mom's dog and she's visiting for a little bit and she was very insistent on being picked up. So she's hanging out. Look at her, isn't she so cute? Yes. So today my chronic illness story because I haven't yet, and my channel is supposed to be about chronic illness and my chronic illness, so it makes sense. I have been putting off filming this video because I haven't been feeling well, and I was kind of putting it off until maybe I felt better, and then I was like, that's silly. This is a video about my chronic illness that's never going away, and so why am I waiting for it to go away? Okay. It's always really hard to know where to start things, because I mean, like, technically it's a thing I've had all my life, but it didn't start being like a really big problem for me when I was about 23. Okay, so to start off, I have generalized hypermobility syndrome and fibromyalgia. It took about 17 years to get a doctor to officially say you have generalized hypermobility, and it is a symptomatic version of. And also that's when they said fibromyalgia, which I had never thought of really before, but it tracks. So I started having issues when I was in my very early 20s. I mean, like, there had always been like little signs of issues and stuff here and there, but most of them were just like, I had a lot of growing pains, so everyone was just like, well, you're growing, so obviously. I would twist my ankle and sprain like my wrist really easily. I was always very clumsy on top of that. And just like, there's a lot of little signs that like you probably, like, most people wouldn't notice because it would just be put down to a child being not very athletic. And I was not very athletic. I did have on average like a lot more headaches than I think most kids did, which we did get looked into, and we talked to like chiropractors and stuff because that's what they figured it was. They got my eyes checked, my eyes were fine, and they never really did find a reason in particular why. So yeah, so I had a lot of these little like symptoms and signs and things happening, but nothing that really like, you know, rang any major alarms for my parents or anybody. And it didn't really like occur to me that something was wrong until I think I was 23, around there, and I got this like hip pain, and it was just like really bad. Like, I couldn't walk kind of hip pain, and it was like right in the back lower. They checked the organs, they checked all the things, but like they couldn't really find the reason. And I ended up going to a massage therapist who told me that it was my SI joint, which, if you know SI joints are not supposed to move very much. So he said that my SI joint was out a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay. And he did some things, he did some gentle manipulations, and he put it back in place and made it feel better. And I was like, okay, cool, done, we're good. Another like month later, it happens again. I go back for massage, I get it fixed. And that was just kind of like the start of a whole spiral of little issues that I had with different joints and ligaments over the next like 10 years. There was just like driving me crazy. Like, I thought I was going insane. Nobody knew what was wrong with me. Everyone was just like, well, I don't know, you have weak wrists. I don't know, you have a bad hip. I was told everything from, it's just because you're a woman, or it's all in your head, it's just anxiety, it's just because you're still growing. Yes, in my 20s. Someone did tell me I was still growing. I had a lot of like doctors just like pass it off as being nothing, because nothing was super serious, but everything hurt a lot. And it really did start to impede on my quality of life. So for years, I just had like all of these problems and no one knew what it was. And I kept going to different doctors and different physios and different massage therapists, hoping somebody would recognize something. And I did finally go to one physiotherapist, can't even remember his name because I was just too in shock that day. I came in and I think that time was about my wrist. I was having some my right wrist actually. My right wrist was having a lot of problems while I was in school, and I was writing a lot and I was taking all these notes, and I started to have really bad wrist pain. And he was looking at that, and I kind of just broke down a little bit, and I told him, I'm like, this is like you're the fifth physio I've seen in the last couple of years. I'm constantly having these different issues. Now it's my wrist, and then sometimes it's my hip, sometimes it's my ribs, sometimes it's my shoulders and my neck. And I just told him all of these things. And he just kind of looked me over, and he told me to do a few things, like move my joints around and stuff, and told me to touch the floor, and looked at how my knees were when I was standing up straight and my elbows. And he's just like, oh, you're hypermobile. And I was just like, I was shooketh. I didn't know what to do with that. And he didn't even, for as good as this guy was at recognizing what was going on and finding an answer and giving me an answer, he did not give me a whole answer. He just said, you're hypermobile. He's like, you're a little bit bendy. And I was like, just a little bit bendy? How is a little bit bendy bringing me to tears at the thought of the constant pain that I'm having all over my body? And I was just like, okay. And then he did the things, and he gave me some exercise recommendations for my wrist, because literally every doctor follows up, I have pain, with, have you tried exercise? And that's going to be another video. So he tells me, he's like, you're hypermobile. So I go home and I start Googling and I start looking it up. I started going onto Instagram and looking for other people who said that they were hypermobile. Okay, I just had to stop there mid-sentence because I can feel my heart rate coming up. So, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I got on Google, started looking things up, started talking to some people on Instagram who also said they were hypermobile, and just started learning this whole new world of things. And I found all these people who were describing symptoms that sounded like mine, and finding people who actually understood what this was feeling like, and also the way the doctors weren't understanding it. And so I learned that, here's the medical scientific-y part, that hypermobility functions on a spectrum. So the spectrum kind of runs from you're a little bit bendy to you have a full autoimmune disorder. Your joints are going to probably just dislocate, usually coupled with a lot of other comorbidities. It gets really bad. I am somewhere towards it is getting really bad. It causes me a lot of pain. It causes a lot of disruptions to my life. I have a lot of comorbidities along with it, but not quite fully so much that I've never been hospitalized for it. And I've never had a dislocation. Knock on so much wood. I do get what's called subluxations, which means my joints move out of the range of motion that they're supposed to, and they move out of the joint slightly, but not enough to fully dislocate. And it hurts a whole freaking bunch. So some of the symptoms that I deal with on a pretty regular basis, the top worst would be the headaches. I have a lot of joint instability between my skull and my neck. This causes some crazy migraine level headaches. They don't meet the criteria for migraines, but when you think of migraines and the level of pain that causes and the nausea and the light sensitivity and such, it does that. I get those a lot. It's been a little bit, again, knocking on some wood, but I do get a lot of headaches. That's just a fairly consistent thing for me. I get some of these headaches that like they actually do go away if my head is supported. So I literally have to stay in bed or on the couch or somewhere where my head can be fully supported, or it just like throbs. And it's really annoying because like while I'm sitting there, I'm literally just bored because I can't do anything or move. But if I move, it'll make my head throb. They suck. Headaches are the top worst of the symptoms that I get by far. Beyond that, I get a lot of little subluxations. And so just every day, all day, all of my joints are just a little bit unstable and just a little bit angry. It's not like arthritis where you get a swelling in the joint that causes a consistent pain. But a lot of times I can just like move, like maybe I'm just cleaning or in the shower or walking down my hallway, and one of my joints, like my knee, will just now it hurts like so much. And these are so just like, they're so debilitating and just like frustrating. They're so frustrating because you're just like walking along and then like for no reason, all of a sudden in a lot of pain. I realize there's a reason, but like it feels like an attack for no reason. It just makes general functioning very tiresome and exhausting. And my knee has been like especially bad lately. It's not even usually one of the bad ones. Usually my knees are kind of okay. But right now, oh, and it's hurting so much. So after the headaches and the subluxations, the symptoms that really get to me are a lot of the autonomic symptoms. Hypermobility comes connected to a lot of different things, and one of the big things is dysautonomia. Sometimes, and most often, I think this presents as POTS in a lot of people, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I think so. I think I said that right. These words are so hard when you're also functioning with brain fog. So yeah, the dysautonomia causes my heart rate to be a little higher than it should be, and which causes a lot of fatigue and a lot of that brain fog and just a lot of autonomic nervous system issues. I don't do well in heat at all. I struggle so much with everything when it's hot out. I'm okay with cold for the most part. I don't have great blood flow, so sometimes like my feet and my hands and stuff get really cold, but I think that's semi-connected, but not hugely. But oh yeah. But I really, really don't do well when it rains. And the rain, just all of my joints feel swollen, like I'm moving through molasses, and the brain fog gets really heavy, and yeah, rain kills me. So those are the kind of the main symptoms. I do have like a full article on what hypermobility is and all of the different symptoms that it can cause. I will be linking that down below. It's all up on my blog. So anything that I miss here in my brain fogginess, please go learn about it. It's a very interesting condition at the very least. Like it causes a lot of different things, and it's all for like a lack of collagen is essentially, I believe, the main cause. So those are kind of the main physical symptoms of it all, but there is also, and I think that this is that this is probably true for most people with a chronic illness and chronic pain. There's a lot of mental health components to it as well. I definitely had a lot of doctors dismiss my pain as being anxiety. And I thought that just so ridiculous, because I just can't believe anybody who deals with constant pain and a body that's untrustworthy and a body that's going to, you don't know how you're going to feel from day to day. Like, how can you have that and not be a bit anxious? Like, please. I mean, maybe if you are so enlightened and you've meditated on it so well, please do tell me how to get there. But when you don't know what's going to happen, like, you don't know if your next step is going to be that step that wrenches your knee, how are you not a little anxious? So of course I was anxious. Like, these doctors telling me that it's anxiety that's causing the problem, that one was one of the most frustrating for me to hear. It just drove me nuts. After this long, depression is definitely a factor. None of these have been clinically diagnosed, but I know the criteria. It's a lot. Where do you go after you just like list out all of the symptoms and everything that's just like your daily life? So on this journey of mine, after that physiotherapist gave me the word and gave me that like magic key into learning so much more about myself, I kind of got sucked in a little bit. Like, the health and the like anatomy of it all and the medical side of it all kind of fascinated me. That was kind of always a thing. Like, science was always a thing I really liked. I was already sort of working in the health fields, and so it just seemed like the obvious next step was to educate myself more about the body, about illness and disease and disability, and the way that pain and illness can affect life and how you can adapt to it. So I went back to school to be a therapist assistant. I got trained in how to assist physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and recreational therapists. Recreational therapy was obviously like my biggest interest because it was more fun. But the thing that I learned that really bothered me as a person who was already dealing with chronic pain was there was no good services for the people who just were stuck living with it. Like, if you get injured, there are services to help you get better. But if you are born injured, those services are only going to go so far. And they usually tap out when a person enters adulthood. And like, physical therapy is wise. Like, who can afford to go to physical therapy every week for the rest of their life? Because that's essentially what I need now. I need physical therapy and or having like a coach or somebody to like really monitor the things like every week. Like, it's a lot. And so I kind of took a little spin on the therapist assistant stuff, and I went further and got my personal training certificate and my yoga teacher training. And I specialized in how to adapt and modify exercises. So now I could probably still use a professional for sure. I definitely could. But I know how now to modify my movements so that I can somewhat stay active. Okay, but let's talk about what that does look like. So like I said, most doctors, the best advice that they had for me was try exercise. And I did. And that was why I did the therapist assistant training and I did the personal training, because I really wanted to understand exercise and how exercise was supposed to help me and how I could actually make it work for me. So I gave it up last year, but for the 6 years before that, I was working as a movement coach, helping other people with all of these things that I learned and all of these modifications. But in the end, honestly, it's always still a little bit of a struggle. And you can definitely get past it. I know you can. And I'm not a talk down about myself type person. So I need you to know when I say I'm not really just being hard on myself, I am just a person who doesn't stay committed to things very easily. Workout regimes included. I'm not good at keeping up with it. And partially it is the physical health side of it, because I'm always in pain. I'm always in some level of pain. Something hurts. Every day, movements have to be modified for my pain in some way. That's really tiresome. So to get on the mat every day and try to push through some kind of pain or try to modify around some kind of pain, it's exhausting. So that kind of just makes me feel that aversion to it, even though I know I need it. I know I need it, and I'm working on it. I'm working on bringing myself to the mat and working on building my strength and working on doing the things, but it's never easy. So that's kind of why I gave up doing the coaching, was because I was giving so much into my business and into the coaching that I wasn't really taking care of myself anymore. And I've gotten really bad at that. And so now I'm working on that, but it's hard. So it's actually just in this last year, I think about 17 years after the first time my SI joint went out and I started looking into things, that I got a physiotherapist to say, yes, this is what you have. This is your diagnosis. And I knew somewhere in the logical side of my brain, I knew that there weren't many answers, because I've done the research. I did so much research. I knew what was out there. And most of it was either physiotherapy and exercise or some level of just a painkiller for management. I knew that. And I still had my hopes up. I still had my hopes up a little bit that there was going to be more. And I went into that office with that little bit of hope. So when this man told me that, yes, you have this is your diagnosis, this is your answer, finally confirmed, even though I knew. It wasn't a surprise to me. I knew. He then told me that there's nothing else he can do, and I was crushed. Because I thought that this guy's got to have something. Maybe they're just holding something back. Maybe there's something that only the specialists, because you have to get in to see a specialist. And I figured that having talked to a specialist, they would be able to tell me something more than the random physiotherapist did. All he did was confirm that I don't have an autoimmune disease, so it wasn't Ehlers-Danlos. And I already knew that. I don't actually get sick very easily. It's the one kind of thing my body does all right at. I thought he was going to have answers, but he really didn't. None. Just not even a referral. Not even a referral to a different professional, to even a better physiotherapist or a specific fitness instructor with any kind of specialty. He had nothing. So now here I am. I have a diagnosis. In this last couple of years now too, learning more about my brain and how it works. That's going to be another video. And I know these things now, and I am just left to manage, which is why I do what I do with my blog. I share tips and ideas and stories about how to manage with chronic pain. And that's why I keep this channel going, because I want to be able to connect with more people who are dealing with the same things. And I have my social media channels. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. But that's why I do what I do. That's my story. That's my journey. That's what I've got going on. My current goals, which you can see all of them, but my current goals is creating a job for myself that works with all of this, it's not going so well. I'm working on it, and that's my story. This has been the chronic illness journey. I felt like this was important to include in the channel because if I'm going to talk about my chronic illness, there needs to be some kind of like background into it all. So please, if you have any questions about hypermobility, do check out the article that I have posted below, and please feel free to like drop any questions into the comments. If you understand and if something in this video connected with you, please do drop a line. I love to make new friends that understand what's going through, because chronic pain and illness is super isolating because not many people can understand. And like and subscribe, do all the things. Thank you all for hanging around, listening to my story. I will see you next time. Bye.